Fine-tuning your audio is a very meticulous task. So many nooks and crannies that you can manipulate and adjust to your liking and make it the way that you envision and you really think that it's going to sound like. Now, of course, it takes a lot of trial and error to get to that point, but this one specific thing has a couple of avenues to go down, and I'm going to go into some of the options for you. Welcome back to the Rebel Tech channel. I'm Justin, and in this video, we're going to be talking about the high-pass filter or low-cut filter options in the Zoom F6 and compare it to some onboard microphone switches and compare it to in-software options. So we'll go into my DAW, we'll go into Premiere Pro, and compare them all and see if you notice a difference. For the most part, they're probably not going to be that much different, but I just want to give you a couple of audio samples and maybe a little bit of insight into the workflow of how it may go, and some pros, some cons for each one as well. Now, before we get into actually talking about using this and giving you audio samples and also turning it on in the Zoom F6, let's talk about what a high-pass filter or low-cut filter is. And it has two names because they are two things that mean the same thing. High-pass filter means all the highs above that cut is passing through. Low-cut filter meaning cutting those lows that you just cut. They mean exactly the same thing, but depending on who you talk to, that's the terminology that they're going to use. And on the opposite side, you have the same exact thing, high cut filter or low pass filter, that kind of stuff. But in this specific thing, we're just going to be talking about the high pass filter, low cut filter. So to dive a little bit deeper into the definition of high pass filter, if you watch, and I will show you in this video, if you watch someone doing EQ on something and there's that shelf on one edge, probably on the left side on the low end, and it starts like getting that shelf moving over, that's cutting the low end. And it's not a like direct line. It can get pretty close, but that's where you manipulate it of how drastic you want that. You want it more like a hook like that, or do you want like a shelf like it's dead on? So the point of the high pass filter is to, for the most part, get rid of some unwanted sounds. So on those edges, meaning the closer to 0 and the closer to 20,000, those start to be more like rumbles, like an AC or a hiss or something like that. Frequencies that are not necessarily useful and not really gonna be pleasant to listen to in certain circumstances. Sure, there could be instances where they could be useful, but for the most part, you are going to need to cut them out to make a more clean take or clean version of your audio. So, without any further ado, let's get into how to turn it on in the Zoom F6. Very easy to do, very easy to adjust. It's just a couple of steps and just a simple up and down. So, you're going to go to Menu, Input, PFL, Input, HPF, which is high pass filter for all you paying attention at home. Then you're going to go to HPF, high pass filter, and then you're going to turn it on. And your range is from 10 decibels to 240, which, little teaser here for the end of the video, the Shure SM7B will be one of those that we compare it to because we have the range for 240. I believe the Shure SM7B has a low-cut filter of 200, so we can compare those two and see if there's a difference between them. Now, you don't have to go through the menu and do that. If you know the Zoom F6, you know there's a shortcut. If you press the check menu while in the home screen or the levels screen, you go straight to the PFL settings, so you skip the first two steps. So you're going to press the check mark, then go to Input, high pass filter / limiter, high pass filter, and then turn it on and choose your desired range. So those are pretty easy to remember. What a high pass filter is, how to turn it on in the Zoom F6. Now for the real test. We're going to go in the booth because I want to have less distractions. I want to have a clean take. And of course, this is not necessarily for everybody who's using this in a booth or using this in a perfect setting. I'm just trying to put it in a situation where everything is consistent. So if I throw it in the booth, it will be more consistent than doing it here because certain microphones are different in these circumstances. So we're going to go into the booth, do those tests, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to do some post-processing and listen to it and see if we notice a difference. All right, so we're in the booth right now, and I feel like this is the best place to test these things. So the high-pass filter, we're going to do 3 different options. We're going to do the AT4040 with the high-pass filter of the Zoom F6 on at 80 Hertz because that corresponds with this. The switch on the AT4040, and then in post, I will also compare it to a high-pass filter, just a simple one in Premiere Pro. I won't go into any crazy DAW stuff because I'm going to save that for a future video. So, here is a little excerpt from a book I'm writing, and it's just like a murder mystery kind of thing, and I've been wanting to write it for a long time. It's probably, the idea has probably been like at least 10 years old, so I just on and off for the last 10 years. But here's a little from the epigraph, I guess is like the intro. I think that's what it's called. It is said that knowledge can open up the truth, but can it also open up the lies? I look at this diary and see the horror that came out of one man's lies. These images, they haunt me. In my thoughts and in my sleep, they give me nightmares. The thought of home, for most, solves their problems. But I guess these problems just find me, no matter where I go. This is why I'll share this diary with the world, when I am done. It is said that knowledge can open up the truth, but can it also open up the lies? I look at this diary and see the horror that came out of one man's lies. These images, they haunt me. In my thoughts and in my sleep, they give me nightmares. The thought of home, for most, solves their problems. But I guess these problems find me, no matter where I go. This is why I'll share this diary with the world when I'm done. It is said that knowledge can open up the truth, but can it also open up the lies? I look at this diary and see the horror that came out of one man's lies. These images, they haunt me. In my thoughts and in my sleep, they give me nightmares. The thought of home, for most, solves their problems. But I guess these problems just find me, no matter where I go. This is why I'll share this diary with the world when I am done. It is said that knowledge can open up the truth, but can it also open up the lies? I look at this diary and see the horror that came out of one man's lies. These images, they haunt me. In my thoughts and in my sleep, they give me nightmares. The thought of home, for most, solves their problems. But I guess these problems just find me, no matter where I go. This is why I'll share this diary with the world when I am done. So, little teaser there for a book that I may finish one day. I hope that I will. I really do like this story, and I hope that I can share it with everyone. But yeah, it's like a murder mystery, a little bit of Dexter, a little bit of Hannibal Lecter kind of thing. It's just something fun that I write. All right, so we have the PD70 right now, and this is just natural, no switches. Obviously, there's no switches on this one. And there is nothing going on in the Zoom F6, no post-processing, no nothing, natural. And since we read from the good guy in my story, now we're going to read from the bad guy in the epigraph. I think epigraph is like the text you may see at the beginning of a book, or I think that's the right word that I'm using. I wrote it down that way. It's not a prologue. It's like before the prologue. So I don't know. Just something fun to do. So this is from the villain or the main antagonist, I guess. The human race wasn't meant to stay stagnant. We are meant to evolve with time and push ourselves into the future. The reflections in the mirror are just a reminder of the apes that we once were. They should be projections of the masterpiece that we will be. The human race wasn't meant to stay stagnant. We are meant to evolve with time and push ourselves into the future. The reflections in the mirror are just a reminder of the apes that we once were. They should be a projection of the masterpiece that we will be. The human race wasn't meant to stay stagnant. We are meant to evolve with time and push ourselves into the future. The reflections in the mirror are just a reminder of the apes that we once were. They should be projections of the masterpiece that we will be. All right, so we're in the booth right now with the Shure SM7B, and switches are off, everything natural, nothing in post-processing. Now, the thing that I want to do here is, I believe the low-cut filter on the Shure SM7B is around 200 hertz. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a switch on, switch off, natural, not natural, with the switch on. And Zoom F6, 200 hertz, because we have up to 240, I believe. And post-processing as well, which I'll reuse the first take. A clear night sky emerges from the fiery sunset above a busy Southern California. The waves are crashing on the beautiful beaches, with people out enjoying the environment's embrace. All but one person, Rupert Long, a medical school student at Stanford University. Rupert had moved from Berlin, Germany, to study at the university to become a surgeon. Going into his last year, he had many ideas of how he would revolutionize the field. But to everyone's ignorance, his idea of revolutionizing didn't have anything to do with his performance in the hospital. A clear night sky emerges from a fiery sunset above a busy Southern California. The waves are crashing on the beautiful beaches, with people out enjoying the environment's embrace. All but one person, Rupert Long, a medical student at Stanford University. Rupert had moved from Berlin, Germany to study at the university to become a surgeon. Going into his last year, he had many ideas of how he would revolutionize the field. But to everyone's ignorance, his idea of revolutionizing didn't have anything to do with his performance in the hospital. A clear night sky emerges from the fiery sunset above a busy Southern California. The waves are crashing on the beautiful beaches, with people out enjoying the environment's embrace. All but one person, Rupert Long, a medical student at Stanford University. Rupert had moved from Berlin, Germany to study at the university to become a surgeon. Going into his last year, he had many ideas of how he would revolutionize the field. But, to everyone's ignorance, his idea of revolutionizing didn't have anything to do with his performance in the hospital. A clear night sky emerges from the fiery sunset above a busy Southern California. The waves are crashing on the beautiful beaches, with people out enjoying the environment's embrace. All but one person, Rupert Long, a medical school student at Stanford University. Rupert had moved from Berlin, Germany, to study at the university to become a surgeon. Going into his last year, he had many ideas of how he would revolutionize the field. But to everyone's ignorance, his idea of revolutionizing didn't have anything to do with his performance in the hospital. Okay, so I gave all these a listen. I gave the takes that I went through and edited, and it really is something that you need to wear headphones for sure and understand where those frequencies are being changed. So first up, let's go with the AT4040 and the first one that I listened to. So the 4040 and the F6, meaning the high-pass filter and switch high-pass filter, are both very similar. Not exact, but they're pretty close. So for a normal person and for someone casually listening, they're probably not going to be noticing a difference. Then when we go to the Adobe Premiere high-pass filter, which is just me doing it manually, there is a high-pass filter plugin, but I just use the EQ, the parametric EQ, as you saw. The soft low-cut filter, meaning the one that doesn't have a hard shelf, is more aggressive, and the hard one is even more so. So in that comparison between the 4040, the F6, and the Adobe, the way that I edited the Adobe EQ is certainly more aggressive. So if you're looking for something more subtle with the AT4040 or some type of microphone like the AT4040, maybe the AT2035, then it definitely will be a nice subtle option for you. It gets more aggressive if you use post-processing, obviously, because you can manipulate it. That's a tough one. How you want. And maybe I could have eased off on it, but I wanted to give it a different take because the other two were pretty similar. So I was going to show where the extremes are. And I listened back and I'm like, I could just do this all the same. I can make it very subtle and match it. But I felt like it'd be more useful for someone to understand this is the first two were the line, and then I pushed the line a little bit further. So there you go. If you're interested in other stuff and other examples, me going further with it, let me know down in the comments, and I can add it to the list because I plan on doing more on this, but I want to fine-tune that and make it more just a full video rather than just repeating all this stuff. I want to bring some new stuff to the table in that new video sometime in the future. Now on to the PD70. Obviously, we only did the Adobe Premiere EQ and the F6 because the PD70 doesn't have any switches. What I noticed here is that the soft 50, meaning the one that's not a hard shelf, like we were speaking about before, and the F6 at 50 were very similar. Obviously, the hard shelf, the really tough one, was aggressive. It was much more different than the rest of them, and you notice that difference there. But for the most part, I feel like the PD70 can benefit from this at 50. Sometimes some voices will be using that lower frequencies, but a lot of them really are just unusable. Rumbles from an EC or stuff that I mentioned before, anything that's unusable. Of course, there are situations where they will work out, but in this case, it's not. So if you're using this, you have the option either way. Now to the Shure SM7B. The switch on the back and the F6 at 200 are pretty similar. So when you're deciding on this, it will have to be a game time decision, meaning that this will determine how you want it recorded and how it will come out regardless. This is one of those things that you can't get it back. Once you record it this way with the switch on or the high-pass filter on the F6, it's done. That's it. Unless there is another option where you could split the microphone into two inputs, recording two separate tracks, one being high-pass filter and one being clean. So you could do that as well. There's options out there. I'm really interested in one, but it's a little expensive, so I don't know. I have a splitter, and I might try it with that. So it's a cheap little splitter. I don't know how well it's going to work, but it's worked okay. Now, lastly, the Adobe on the Shure SM7B. The soft one was much less. You probably heard that it was much less aggressive than the other ones. And the hard one was much more. So the switch and the F6, we're right in the middle of the soft edit and the hard edit. So it's somewhere in between. So if you look at the numbers on that edit, you will notice that those ranges are pretty much there. So keep this all in mind when you're editing and you're recording, because there are benefits to using the switches. There are benefits to using in hardware edits, like the high pass filter on the F6. And that's the point of this. This is me giving you an example of how these things react and are they useful. And sure, I can hunt around and find the exact same frequency that the Shure SM7B is at 200 Hertz on the Adobe EQ. This is all possible. It's more work, but it is possible. Also, by doing it in post, you have the flexibility to take away and give it back. With this and the switch and the F6 with the high pass filter, you do not. It is gone after that. So keep that in mind when you're recording and you're editing, especially if it's something serious. Sometimes you just want the raw audio, like me. I like to have the raw audio unless I'm very sure about it. And if you're very sure about it, then go ahead. If you've done this a lot and you know what's going to come out, cool. If you're not, then taking the extra time in the back end to make it sound a little bit better might be beneficial to you. But everybody's different and everybody has their own skill set. So let me know how you feel about these and how you feel about how this test went. I know it's not perfect. I know it's not a full test, and there are plenty other examples to go through, but this is what I can give you in the time that I have. So if you want to follow up, if you want something specific on a specific microphone, let me know. And that all being said, thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you liked the video, please hit the like button down below. We greatly appreciate it. Helps this video, helps this channel, all that stuff. The whole YouTube algorithm thing, it's a real thing. It's not a myth. It actually does help this video get out to more people. People interested in the F6, people interested in audio and all stuff like that. And if you like my vibe around here, please consider subscribing. It'd be greatly appreciated. We're building a really cool community and really nice people around here. It's been a fun journey, and I am looking forward to growing it further in this year and hopefully further into the future. We'll see what happens. And lastly, of course, comments, the Discord. You could join that as well. All I ask is you be nice and just be constructive. All that stuff. You know the rules. They're in the About section if you're interested. And they're in the Discord as well. So all the same rules, just be nice. And if you have to be constructive, be constructive. I'm all about having a discussion. I'm not about like having an argument. I want to have a discussion. I want to learn. And I don't know everything, obviously, and nobody knows everything. I mean, if you think you know everything, you probably don't. All right, I'm done babbling. Until next time, take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Is it? No, it's not. Oh, he's gonna kill me! He's gonna kill me! Oh, he killed me. I died. Booty down!